Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Electorate podcast. I am your host, Ian West. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the scandal that is currently running rampant in the very highly qualified and very experienced Donald Trump administration, and that is the Houthi PC Small Group scandal. Does a Huthi PC Small Group imply the existence of a Huthi PC Large Group? Anyway, let's dive in. So on Monday, the Atlantic reporter Jeffrey Goldberg released an article stating that he had been added to what he believed was a highly sensitive signal chat group called the Huthi PC Small Group. In this chat, and he was added by Mike Waltz. In this chat were several high-ranking members of the Donald Trump administration. Those members are, obviously, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, John Ratcliffe of the CIA, Susie Wiles, campaign director for the Trump administration. We've got Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Vice President J.D. Vance. So this goes about as close to the top as you can get without getting all the way to the top. So when Jeffrey Goldberg released this article, he stated that when he was first added by Michael Waltz, he thought that perhaps this was, a scam, somebody basically trying to get him into some trouble by offering information that he shouldn't have heard, made up information or whatever. So he remained basically silent in the background, just observing. Some text messages in the Signal group chat began going back and forth between J.D. Vance, Mike Waltz, Pete Hegseth. Stephen Miller was on a couple of them as well. And eventually, he came to the conclusion that, holy shit, this might actually be real. This might actually be a real chat that I was added to unintentionally. And most of the information he was receiving was relatively innocuous. There was some discussion about how Europe should stop freeloading off the United States and handle their own business over there, to which, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth all agreed. J.D. Vance was at one point somewhat critical of Donald Trump's handling or his understanding of the way he was approaching that situation. Nothing sort of super bombshell came out. And then in the article, Jeffrey Goldberg says he became privy to a series of messages from SecDef Pete Hegseth spelling out military strikes in Yemen on Houthi terrorists. And originally, Mr. Goldberg stated that he could not include those in the article because it was a case of national security. And after this came out, you can probably kind of guess how MAGA replied to this. At first, it was basically deny, no, this didn't happen, all this is fake. When it became obvious that it was real and the White House even confirmed that these messages were real, then it was maybe that Jeff Goldberg actually weaseled his way into this thread somehow. How that's even possible, nobody has been able to point to or show that you can even do something like that. But say, hey, even if you could, he would still have to know about its existence in order to try to gain access to it. But it has come out that was not the case at all. He was added by Mike Waltz, as shown on some screen grabs from that Signal chat group. So then it became, okay, well, there were no war plans shared in that chat group, right? There was no war plans. There were no classified information was shared in the group chat. Tulsi Gabbard stated in front of Congress, she stated that no confidential information was shared. Then it came out the very next day. Mr. Goldberg decided, okay, maybe I can show what was stated, and I'll include that screen grab here so you can see what was considered probably classified not probably, what was considered absolutely classified information, a time-stamped step-by-step guide for how this was going to play out. And this is from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. So as you can see, he's got a list here of all these time-stamped events that are planned out. And what concerns me about this the most, and we look at this, and this is obviously classified information. If somebody were to get a hold of this, they might know what our actions were. They might know what our plans were. They could be more careful. A lot of things could happen, right? What concerns me most about this is not that necessarily that Jeffrey Goldberg himself was included in this, but there's a few things. So one of them is, and you can see when you get the screen grabs of the text message chains, that a lot of these messages automatically delete themselves. Now, I've seen some MAGA online basically saying, "Hey, this is a good thing because then nobody could see them if they gained access." Well, you can't see anything until you gained access later. So if they had access to it, they saw it the whole time. Secondly, now we have no recourse to see what these messages said, what they were. These are gone, so that they could hide things that they were putting in this Signal group thread with the automatic delete function. And this is a free app that you can just download on the App Store. I personally didn't have Signal. When this came out, I went, obviously doing some research and looking into it. I downloaded it, signed up for it, bam, right away. If I had a contact like Pete Hegseth, or if I had a contact like Mike Waltz and they accidentally added me to it, there was nothing that I did. And if you can accidentally add the Atlantic editor-in-chief to your Signal group thread about how you're going to bomb Houthi terrorists, who's to say that you couldn't be duped into adding somebody else or somebody masquerading as somebody you think is part of your... you obviously did no checking whatsoever. So who's to stop somebody from signing up as J.D. Vance? Or who's to stop somebody from signing up as Marco Rubio or Pete Hegseth or Tulsi Gabbard and gaining access to all of this information? And this is just one group thread. We actually know from some of the texts that were exchanged in this small group thread referencing other threads. So they're obviously using Signal to discuss many, many, many things. This is not an approved way of messaging. This is not an approved way of going over this sort of stuff. There need to be channels. There are channels that are designed for this purpose, and they just aren't using them. They're bypassing them, and you have to wonder why. And for some of them, I think it might generally be a nefarious sort of purpose to avoid any sort of recourse in case anything goes wrong. We can delete what was said. They don't know that this exists. For others, I think they just don't know any better, and they're just along for the ride. Eventually Jeffrey Goldberg left the chat. And of course, we have from there no idea, what happened then, what the response was, or what the expectation was from that point. But it's interesting is that I would love to be a fly on the wall in that Signal group chat. I would love to be a Jeffrey Goldberg on the wall after he had left and seen exactly what it was that was said, how they responded. Oh shit, who's that guy? Or did anybody even fucking notice? It wouldn't surprise me if not a single one of them even noticed. But so, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, there was no classified information shared. Okay, obviously there was. That's just bullshit. And you can say, hey, this is just Jeffrey Goldberg of the Atlantic. But again, it goes back to my point that if you can make this big of a mistake, you can make an even bigger mistake. You could actually allow foreign intelligence into these threads if you're not careful, which they're obviously not being. This is just how their administration is run. They're not careful. They do not They did not do anything because none of them are qualified. None of them should be in these positions. So I said this when the story first came out on Monday. There were people saying that Pete Hegseth would be fired. Now, I disagreed with it at the time, and I guess I sort of probably still disagree with it to now. But I will say that my position was then they're just going to deny it, they're just going to downplay it, they're just going to do this, and it's going to go away like every other Donald Trump scandal or Donald Trump administration scandal of the past, and we're all just going to move on to something else. You know, the typical flood the zone bullshit. Now, this has gained a little more legs than I think I would have originally, or I think that I did originally expect. This has been, and I know triple Trump voters, people that voted for Trump in 16, 20, and 24, who are pissed off about this. And this is not one of those, oh, I know fake XYZ voter. No, I'm serious. There are people actually pissed about this. And you can look online, you can look at some of the bigger channels. You even got like Tommy Lauren basically saying you can mix this message up, you can muddle words, you can do all this bullshit, but the fact is you fucked up and you fucked up bad. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made some comments today, the only person on this administration that has so far, saying that someone had made a mistake letting Jeffrey Goldberg in and somebody needed to be held responsible. Okay, well, we know who that somebody is. It's Michael Waltz. So I changed my tune earlier this morning that I think he might end up being the scapegoat. He might end up being fired. Now, again, the entire MAGA administration is about never admit that you're wrong, never admit defeat, change facts around so you can get whatever results you want, but at the same time, they know this was a fuck up and it might happen again. So maybe they don't explicitly fire him, okay? Maybe Michael Waltz has, something else that comes up, another position that he can take somewhere else, wants to spend more time with his family, the fake retirement thing, you didn't actually retire, you got fired. And we'll all know what actually happened. We'll all know why he's no longer there, but that's now my opinion on the matter. The last thing that I will say on this is that I am very surprised that of all the Trump scandals we've had over the years, that this one is hanging on as much as it has. And maybe, honestly, it's because it's not Donald Trump. That he was not, at least that we know of right now, that he was not involved in this process at all, wasn't aware of it. Maybe he was, I don't know, but there's no implication that Donald Trump knew what was going on here. And maybe that's the qualifying factor. Oh, you've got some MAGAs out there saying basically, okay, yeah, that we did fuck up, or this person fucked up, or whatever. Maybe they're far enough removed from Trump that they're okay with throwing them under the bus because it doesn't hurt dear leader. And that goes back to another conversation that we've had in the past about MAGA, about what the fuck happens to them after Donald Trump is gone. What happens to the MAGA movement when that talisman is no longer there? And I think if we see serious repercussions in this administration or this cabinet that was involved in this process, I really think that is indicative of what becomes of MAGA, and it's not good for them. That's all we've got today on the Huthi PC Small Group. I'm sure more information will come out in the coming days. This was recorded on Wednesday and will be released on Thursday. I am sure we will dissect this a little bit more. We've got more episodes coming your way. Again, this is season 2 of the Electorate podcast. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Tell me you fucking hate me. Tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm wrong. Do not care. Let's start the conversation because that's the only way we get this moving forward. Thanks so much for checking out the Electorate podcast, and I'll see you next time.